Welcome to the third edition of our weekly interview show, Talking Heads. My name is Josh Haney. I'm the editor of The Horn, a online news resource for UT students. My guest this week is Student Government President-elect Scott Parks. Scott, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
So I wanted to start off talking about life on the campaign trail.
Okay.
First off, I wanted to kind of get your sentiments as to how relieved you are that this whole process has finally come to a close.
Yeah, I'm just really excited that everything turned out well, and Munize and my whole team and all my volunteers can kind of rest again and get their lives back together. Really, I mean, my car was a complete mess. My room was trashed, so it's been good to kind of go get all the pieces picked back up and move on and get ready to get back to work. So.
What was the transition like from being a individual student who kind of had their own anonymity to being like a public figure?
Yeah, that was really interesting and kind of a challenge for me. There was people that needed to be in contact with me all the time, and especially with the race being really competitive. Having to always be accountable to the Daily Texan and other media outlets and to the students about the ethics of your campaign. I mean, that was it felt very real all the time, and you always had to be ready to answer really tough questions about your nothing is off limits. So it was interesting.
I wanted to ask you, why do you think students responded to you in the way that they did? I guess in essence, what would you attribute your victory to, if it had to be one thing?
That's really tough. I mean, I'm gonna say it was two things. I think first of all, we had a really great campaign team that orchestrated and organized a really well-run campaign. I did all the graphics and all that kind of stuff, and all the media was student produced, and it was just it was a really well-run little organization that we kind of threw together. And then secondly, I feel like the student body appreciated that Munize and I came from more real places on campus. I don't know. We hadn't just been involved in student government, and that kind of message of bringing fresh faces and kind of a new perspective on student government, I think really resonated.
And we had kind of touched on this earlier in our conversation before, but how much confidence did the news of, Justin Minotaur's little, flap with the UT directory and the campaigning in dorms, did that propel y'all or make y'all feel more comfortable going into the runoff?
Well, it was definitely a boost to our campaign in a little sense. But I mean, also the fact that the penalty was so low made us really nervous because, they got a bunch of name recognition off of that huge email blast, and also their flyers and stuff were still, hanging around in the dorms. So there was a lot of name recognition kind of, hanging over into the runoff, and that made us a little nervous. But I mean, all in all, I think the media coverage and kind of the buzz that came out of that really did help us. So I mean.
Do you think that the punishment for their offense was fair?
Well, I think the original punishment was fair, and then it was lessened to less than half. And the main thing that bothered me about it, I think, was the process that was used to come to that decision. The appeals court met through email, and no one on my side even knew that they were meeting, and it was very odd. We don't know who threw it together, or I don't know. We had a lot of questions, and we didn't have time to ask them because we had to go, and so we were just like, well, okay, and moved on. But yeah.
So I mean, SG spent the last year trying to make sure they got the elections right. I mean, that was one of the major things coming out of Liam's election, was that, reform was needed at the ESB. Do you think that last year has been in vain? I mean, what are your, I guess, feelings of
towards the ESB?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that ESB really should have been established much earlier, and they tried to make that happen. My campaign was sending emails to, members of the DOS staff and others to try to, get some questions answered before we went into campaign, but there was no board to deliberate and, issue advisory opinions about, things like, can we have off-campus polling stations? Or, I directly asked about the solicitation using director emails, because, that seems like a pretty easy strategy if you just take a bunch of emails and, spam everyone. But there was nothing in place, and that was kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
So my term, I want the ESB to really start working much earlier so that, campaigns get formed really early on, so that as campaigns go, they can ask questions. The ESB can work with all the candidates so that by the time, elections roll around, it's not like, we aren't testing all the grounds in those 2 weeks when everyone is really stressed out anyways. So
yeah, I mean, I know that this was like kind of a trial run for the new ESB, but why did it get started so late? I mean, the bill, or not, I guess it's not a bill, but the legislation passed in December, right? And then the ESB wasn't put in place until February. Is that right?
Yeah.
So why the gap there?
I honestly don't know. That was something that Liam was in charge of, and I wanted to stay out of it for, obviously I was running. I didn't want to be messing with the ESB. So I was on the exec board, so I could have, figured all that stuff out, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm. You didn't want to seem like you were meddling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And then to, I guess, switch gears a little bit. I want to talk. You mentioned that you did all the graphic work for your site. Did you have any professional help in that, or is that was your little brainchild?
Yeah. So I mean, I actually went to design school the summer after my freshman year.
Okay.
And I do lots of graphics work, outside. My family has a business that I do a lot of graphics for. It's like a coffee company, and so we, they have a bunch of different roasts, and it's a really cool brand called Parks Coffee.
Cool.
Check it out, parkscoffee.com. And also, I do some work for local artists, Reinhardt.
Okay.
And so I wanted something really different. I had been involved in several campaigns that were, or I'd seen, for years, these one-word campaigns, I don't know if you remember Empower, I ran on that ticket. And it was just nothing was inspired, nothing felt fresh, and so I wanted some bold colors. I wanted it, to kind of reflect what we wanted to do with student government, something bold, something different, and so I thought we really achieved that. I think people responded really well to all that, and I have to give a shout out to Katie Wanamaker. She did our website. Ishani Parikh did all of our videos. Everything was student created. We rented out space in the comm school to do our videos. There was no professional help brought in, and that's something that we're really proud of as a campaign. So